our last episode, we spoke about Balaji's inception journey into the world of tech, including his current contributions and future vision for Dwara eDairy's tech space. In our next episode, we're doing a bit more of a deep dive into the issues and problems faced by eDairy farmers in their day-to-day life, including how eDairy has come up with smart solutions for the age-old problems faced by dairy farmers in this space. So stay tuned with us to keep knowing more. Cattle have fingerprint?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are portions between the nostrils of the cattle. This portion is called the muzzle.
The snout.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in Tamil it's called the mugavai.
Uh-huh.
So there are patterns
Okay.
in this muzzle portion of the cattle.
What were three problems that really struck out you in terms of accessibility and inclusion?
Some of the key challenges, typically to the dairy farmer, first is the access to capital, where they can go, how they can ask for the capital and how soon they can get the capital, right? And this is especially tough for those rural households who are new to
the letting space.
right?
Yes.
So where there is no
Formal education or formal understanding,
Yes.
or even basic understanding about, is this even an option?
Yeah.
That is not very much, the education quotient of financial inclusion. Or rather, financial inclusion starts with being educated about what is available to you. So I think that was prima facie some of the main issues in terms of, or rather, the reason why a company like eDairy was started is to ensure that people at the ground rural level have first and foremost education and knowledge about what's available to them, and then the accessibility quotient kicks in. So considering from that perspective, could you give us an interesting story about a cattle farmer and his journey on how he's achieved this success story, where he started from and how the success was achieved?
Yeah. So when you visit the field, there are a whole bunch of very interesting stories, and some of them are very inspiring as well. For example, I distinctly remember a lady called Kannammal.
Mm-hmm.
So she was married, and at a very early age of 22, she lost her husband.
Oh,
and she was given, 2 cows by their in-laws.
okay.
So she had the 2 very young daughters, and she essentially, her entire livelihood was
Dependent on these two cows.
Now she is about 58.
Okay.
And both her daughters are educated, working, and granddaughter right now is getting into college.
Oh.
And she has grown from this 2 cattle to about 12 cattle now. Interestingly, she was sort of asking for a loan, right, in terms of expanding her herd to more number of cattle, so that she can also support her granddaughter, education or so, right?
Yeah.
This is a fantastic story.
Yes.
Right?
The transformation, and it's basically 3 generations have been involved in the transformation, and that's quite impressive and quite heartening as well when we know that is the kind of impact that can be created at the grassroots level.
Yes, we essentially have a lot of discussions around agri, right? But if you essentially go to the rural landscape, so dairy and agri are in that sense very coupled. And if you go to any rural village, so typically about 70 to 80% of the household have at least 1 cattle. So at least for their internal, household consumption, they keep at least a cattle. And roughly about 50 to 60% of the households have at least about 2 or more cattle.
What would you say eDairy's biggest achievement in terms of distinguishing cattle? I think we started on the problem statement that one of the major difficulties is to be able to identify which cattle is yours, which is mine, or which is someone else's. So what has been the innovative solution that eDairy has come?
Yeah, so if you essentially see what is the fundamental building block for dairy, it essentially starts with cattle.
Correct.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Do you have any cash with you?
Yeah, sure. I should be having something. Yes. Here you go.
Great. So this is a 500 rupee note.
Yes.
Whose is this?
This is mine.
Great. So yeah, thanks for the 500 rupee note.
Of course.
Whose is this 500 rupee note? Because it's in my hands.
It's yours. It would be noted as yours.
Right?
Yes.
So thank you.
Of course.
So this is what happens also with the cattle.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense, right now cattle is identified using a ear tag. Right?
Okay.
And
Ear tag.
Yeah. So where there is a yellow color tag for each cattle.
Correct.
And there is no way to sort of validate the ownership of the cattle and even to identify the cattle, because these ear tags are tamperable.
Yes,
Right? They can fall off and all that. Right? So it is like this cash. Right? So for, let's say, a cattle is stolen, there is no way to sort of identify a particular cattle.
But that's come from my pocket or your pocket, where it's come from. Okay. Right. Yes.
So this is where a requirement of a biometric identity, right? Just like our fingerprint, is extremely critical. And guess what? Interestingly, nature has already built in.
Cattle have fingerprint?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are portions between the nostrils of the cattle. This portion is called a muzzle.
The snout.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in Tamil, it's called a mugavai.
Uh-huh.
So there are patterns
in
this muzzle portion of the cattle, right? And the patterns in this muzzle are unique for each cattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and this has been an open problem for a fairly long time. And in fact, people have used this, let's say they take an ink and, take the patterns and sort of all that. There have been a lot of research papers which have been published in terms of using the muzzle as an
identity.
So what we have done, interestingly, is leveraged artificial intelligence in terms of, in a mobile phone, through an app, you can take images of the muzzle. Okay. So the system will understand automatically.
Just like our face recognition system?
Okay. Yes. So the system will automatically understand that it's a muzzle and it'll capture the muzzle. It'll understand the patterns. It'll create an ID. Right?
Okay.
And now this can be linked to the farmer. And now we have an absolute way to identify the cattle and also understand its ownership. Right? So in true sense, now cattle will become an asset class.
Absolutely.
Right? So you take land, for example, right? So land, they have land deeds, they have numbers and all.
Yes.
Right?
It's a very formalized process
so
right
if
now.
I come and stand in your land, it doesn't become mine.
Yes.
Whereas the 500 rupee note that you gave to me, once I put it in my pocket, it's mine.
Right? A liquid asset can easily be confused.
Now, with this muzzle identity, we can essentially create a biometric, non-tamperable way to identify and create an ID for the cattle. And hence, this can become an asset class.
Okay.
Right?
I remember the term that Dwara E-Dairy has made an avenue for Aadhars for cattle. Would that be the right approach?
Yeah. So in a way, it is in sort of an Aadhaar equivalent for cattle.
For cattle.
Right.
Okay.
So which is biometric driven, and all of us know the story and the impact of Aadhaar has essentially made, right?
Correct.
Before Aadhaar, I can claim that I'm Balaji. But now with Aadhaar, I can prove that
you are Balaji. True.
Right? Makes a big difference.
True.
Right? So now with this muzzle identity for the cattle, we can uniquely identify each cattle. And, like we were talking about some of the challenges in the dairy lending space. So where the same set of cattle is used by multiple
people as, collateral.
Now, when a cattle is given a loan using the ID, you'll be able to understand whether the same cattle has already been given a loan.
Okay.
So, in that sense, you can reduce the, the risk associated or, essentially...
The risk faced by lending partners so that no one else can, claim on the same cattle. Yeah, so they also definitely, it definitely, addresses a very crucial problem statement that tomorrow no one else. I've got the first right over this this particular cattle.
Yes. So same thing with the insurance as well. Right now for the insurance claims, right, it is all based on the year tags. And in most of the cases, the year tag has to be cut.
Okay.
And, and in some cases has to be sent to the main office and sort of all that. You can understand the supply chain problems and the complexities that are involved. And in the last mile, there is also, in some cases, tampering that happens.
Of course.
Right? So now with this system, you can essentially create a complete digital end-to-end, insurance solution where during the onboarding, the muzzle of the cattle can be onboarded for insurance. And during the claim process, the muzzle can be taken. The image of the muzzle can be taken and used for matching the muzzle during the onboarding process, and the insurance repayments can be processed.
Okay.
Guess what? So we have done close to about 80,000 plus cattle for their insurance.
Okay.
And roughly about 2,000 cases which have come for claims. And in that, roughly about 150 cases, right? So the cattle color is the same, right? And the, sort of look and feel of the animal is the same.
Okay.
Ear tag is the same.
Okay.
Guess what? The muzzles were different.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we were able to essentially save for the insurance. So the larger impact could be in terms of not just from a cyclic perspective where the insurance premiums can come down. More than that, it is also about where the end-to-end digital insurance for the cattle can happen. Quite recently, we had about 4 farmers, insuring about 20 of their cattle completely on a DIY basis.
Okay.
It is just like, all of us.
You're able to give more power to the end customer who is also able to kind of, understand their, there's a lot of value addition here.
Absolutely.
I do have a follow-up question though. See, when it comes to, since we link this with human fingerprint, there is a situation where there is possibility of fingerprint diminishing due to work, due to certain, labor associated issues, right? So is that also something that we need to consider in terms of muzzle identity? Is there any probability of the muzzle identity shifting or changing or for whatever, so getting damaged? Yeah. Is that possible?
Very interesting question. So we have done a deep dive on the muzzle identity. So for example, our solutions we have tested for calves who were, from 12-hour calf.
Okay.
And we have also done a calf timeline study.
Okay.
From a calf which is 12 hours.
Okay.
To about when it is, 11 months old.
Okay.
At various points in time, we have sort of looked at whether the muzzle pattern is changing. That is one. Second, whether our solution works.
Okay.
So the muzzle patterns, the size, right? Essentially,
in proportion to the face, yeah.
So it sort of increases, but the underlying patterns remains the same. There are both a lot of research papers that birth to the death of the cattle. And in fact, after the death to roughly about 36 to 48 hours, the muzzle patterns sort of remain and there is a sort of a gradual degradation post that.
Okay.
So we have essentially tested calves from 12 hours onwards, and we have tested, cattle from at various
stages in life. Okay.
And for the dead cattle, we have sort of tested solution up to 36 hours post-death.
Okay.
Right? And our solution essentially works in terms of looking at all this. And, if you talk to our team, they'll say the kind of test that we have done. For example, we have tested it on twins.
Okay.
We have tested it on dam sire progeny, which is the grandmother, mother, daughter.
Okay.
Right? And siblings. Right? So we have tested our solution, in terms of all these different combinations, different breeds. And see, of course, buffaloes is another sort of category where we have tested on a bunch of buffaloes.
Okay.
So the patterns are unique. That is, of course,
even among twins.
Even among twins. And our solution, most importantly, is able to distinguish that. So which is sort of pretty fascinating and, of course, very gratifying that our solution sort of
Absolutely. We worked with entwined with nature to actually offer a solution that is beneficial to the cattle owner and to be able to identify the cattle more effectively. That's very interesting.
Absolutely. And just to take it forward, I mean, it's like it is not just from a cattle perspective, cows and buffaloes, even in goats and sheep, or even in dogs.
Okay.
There are patterns.
The muzzle is a very unique component. Interesting.
Yes.
Babaji, I mean, throughout this session, while I understand you are the co-founder and CTO of eDairy, I feel that you've been the jack of many trades within eDairy. So, what does your typical day or role in eDairy look like?
One of the jokes that runs in my family is, as they say in Tamil, sonanga maadu mekada like appadina. So, in that sense,
in our last episode, we looked at a very interesting concept. How do we use age-old technology to actually modify it for the current day understanding? By using patented technology, we are now able to identify cattle uniquely, actually making things much easier for farmers to identify and for lending partners to provide insurance, lending solutions, etc. for cattle farmers. Now, in this upcoming episode, we are going to go into a little bit more detail about the maintenance and health of cattle and how eDairy has come up with innovative solutions to actually factor in majority of these touch points that lending partners will look at. So let's go into a deep dive of how the cattle health is verified through technology and using veterinarian science and some age-old practices that has actually contributed to better understanding of the cattle and improving the lives of farmers.